Welcome to my channel. Try to hear the latest story.
The sound of his daughter's laughter echoed through the apartment as Mark Davidson stared at the email that would change everything. Effective immediately, Sophia Chen will be your direct supervisor. His stomach dropped. The same Sophia he'd shared that regrettable night with 3 months ago, the night he'd been trying desperately to forget. If you're enjoying this story of unexpected second chances and workplace complications, please hit that like button and subscribe for more emotional journeys that will keep you on the edge of your seat until the very end. Mark closed his laptop and leaned back in his chair, running his hands through his disheveled hair. At 34, he hadn't expected to be a single father to 8-year-old Emma, juggling daycare pickups and project deadlines while still nursing the wounds of his wife's abandonment 2 years ago. The company holiday party had been his first real night out in months. One drink had turned to 3, and somehow he'd ended up confiding in Sophia Chen, the brilliant but intimidating marketing director from the 4th floor. He barely knew her, just enough to be both attracted and terrified. When the night ended with them tangled in her sheets, he'd panicked and left before dawn, avoiding her calls and texts until they stopped coming. Now she would be his boss. Every day. Every project. Every performance review. "Daddy, can we have pizza tonight?" Emma bounced into his home office, her gap-toothed smile the only light in his increasingly complicated life. "Sure, pumpkin," he said, forcing a smile. "Homework done?" "Almost. I'm stuck on fractions." She climbed onto his lap, unaware that her father's world was fracturing in ways math couldn't explain. Monday morning arrived with cruel swiftness. Mark dropped Emma at school with extra hugs and arrived at the office 20 minutes early, hoping to compose himself before the inevitable confrontation. He hadn't even settled at his desk when his phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number, "My office. 8:30 SC." The walk to Sophia's new corner office felt like a death march. He knocked tentatively, his heart hammering against his ribs. "Come in, Mark." Her voice was exactly as he remembered, confident, slightly husky, with that hint of an accent from her childhood in Taiwan. Sophia Chen sat behind a sleek desk, her posture perfect, her black hair falling in a precise bob that framed sharp cheekbones and intelligent eyes. She wore a charcoal suit that screamed authority, nothing like the laughing woman in the silver dress from the holiday party. "Congratulations on the promotion," he managed, hovering awkwardly by the door. "Sit." She gestured to the chair across from her. "I assume you've reviewed the Henderson proposal?" Mark blinked. No mention of their night together. No awkward attempts at reconciliation. Just business. "Yes, I have the numbers here." He fumbled with his tablet, relief and confusion battling for dominance. "Good. I want daily updates on this project. We'll meet at 7 p.m. starting tonight." 7? Mark's voice cracked. "I'm sorry, but I have my daughter. I usually leave by 5:30 to pick her up from after-school care." Something flickered across Sophia's face, irritation. Disappointment? "This project is priority 1, Mark. Find a solution." Her tone left no room for negotiation. That evening, after begging his elderly neighbor Mrs. Patel to watch Emma, Mark returned to the office. Sophia's door was closed, light spilling from beneath it. He knocked, dreading whatever power play awaited him. "You're late." She didn't look up from her computer. "Traffic. I had to arrange childcare." He couldn't keep the edge from his voice. For 3 hours, they worked through the Henderson proposal. Sophia was brilliant, incisive, catching flaws in the marketing strategy that Mark had missed. Despite his resentment, he found himself impressed. When she finally closed her laptop at 10 p.m., he expected to be dismissed. Instead, she asked, "How old is your daughter?" The question caught him off guard. "Emma?" "She's 8. And her mother?" Mark stiffened. Not in the picture. Left when Emma was 6. Sophia nodded, her expression unreadable. Tomorrow. Same time. The nightly meetings continued. Each evening, Mark scrambled to find childcare, growing increasingly resentful as he missed Emma's bedtime stories and homework sessions. Yet something strange was happening during those late hours with Sophia. The rigid professionalism began to soften around the edges. She ordered dinner when they worked past 9. She asked questions about Emma. She shared small details about her own life, her parents' immigration story, her struggle to be taken seriously as a young Asian woman in corporate America. 2 weeks in, Mark arrived to find Sophia looking uncharacteristically hesitant. I have a proposal, she said. These late meetings are clearly difficult with your childcare situation. My condo has a home office. We could work there, and you could bring Emma. She could sleep in the guest room when she gets tired. Mark stared at her, searching for ulterior motives. Why would you do that? Because the Henderson Project needs your full attention, not your divided loyalty. She paused. And because I understand complicated family situations. The first night at Sophia's condo was awkward. Emma, initially shy, was won over by Sophia's extensive collection of art books and the promise of ice cream after homework. Mark watched in amazement as his boss, the woman he'd been avoiding for months, patiently explained fractions to his daughter using pieces of a chocolate bar. Your boss is nice, Emma whispered as he tucked her into the guest bed later. She doesn't smile much, but her eyes are kind. Mark couldn't argue. He was seeing sides of Sophia Chen he'd never imagined existed. The nightly meetings at Sophia's condo became routine. They would work while Emma did homework or watched TV, then put her to bed before continuing their work over wine or tea. Gradually, their conversations extended beyond marketing strategies and client presentations. One night, after Emma had fallen asleep, Sophia said quietly, I know why you left that morning. Mark froze, his wine glass halfway to his lips. You were scared. Of complications. Of workplace gossip. Of letting someone new into your carefully constructed world. Her eyes met his. I understand because I was relieved when you left. You were? The admission stung more than he expected. My entire career, I've fought to be seen as competent, not as a woman to be pursued or dismissed. Office relationships are messy. Distracting. She set down her glass. But I've missed our conversations since that night. The honesty in her voice broke something open in Mark. I was a coward, he admitted. I enjoyed talking with you more than I had with anyone in years. It scared me. And now? Now I'm confused. You're my boss. There are power dynamics, professional boundaries. All valid concerns. Sophia nodded. Which is why I've requested you be transferred to James Peterson's team next month. Mark stared at her. You're getting rid of me? I'm removing the professional conflict. Her smile was tentative, unlike her usual confidence. The Henderson Project ends in 3 weeks. After that, I'd like to take you and Emma to dinner. Not as your boss. The next 3 weeks were a delicate dance of professional collaboration and growing personal connection. Mark found himself looking forward to their evenings together, watching the way Sophia's reserved demeanor melted around Emma, discovering her dry sense of humor and her passionate opinions about everything from politics to pasta sauce. Emma, for her part, had developed a full-blown case of hero worship. Sophia says girls can be bosses too, she informed Mark one morning. I'm going to be a boss like her someday. The night the Henderson Project was finally submitted, they celebrated with takeout and ice cream at Sophia's condo. After Emma fell asleep, they sat on the balcony overlooking the city lights. I was engaged once, Sophia said suddenly. 5 years ago. He wanted me to choose between my career ambitions and starting a family. What happened? I chose my career. Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice. She looked at him. Your wife. Did she leave because of your job? Mark shook his head. She left because she decided family life wasn't what she wanted after all. Said she felt trapped, that she'd made a mistake. The old pain surfaced briefly. I was angry for a long time. At her, at myself for not seeing it coming. And now? Now I'm grateful Emma has me. That I have her. He hesitated. But I've realized lately that closing ourselves off to new possibilities isn't fair to either of us. Sophia's hand found his in the darkness. I've never dated a man with a child before. I've never dated my boss before. Ex-boss, she corrected with a smile. As of tomorrow. The transition wasn't seamless. Their first official date was interrupted by Emma's sudden fever. Their second ended with an emergency call from Sophia's biggest client. They argued about schedules, about parenting philosophies, about work-life balance. But they also laughed more than Mark had in years. Sophia taught Emma to make dumplings from her grandmother's recipe. Mark showed Sophia how to truly relax on weekends, something she'd never mastered. 6 months after that first awkward meeting in her office, Mark watched as Sophia and Emma built an elaborate pillow fort in his living room, their heads bent together in conspiracy, and realized with startling clarity that he was in love with her. That night, after Emma was asleep, he told her. I know, Sophia said, her usual confidence tinged with vulnerability. I've been waiting for you to catch up. Is that why you engineered those nightly meetings? To give me time to catch up? She laughed. I engineered those meetings because the Henderson project was important. But I moved them to my condo because I wanted to know the man behind that night at the holiday party. The man who talked about his daughter with such love, who had dreams beyond his cubicle, who made me laugh when I'd forgotten how. 1 year after becoming his boss, Sophia Chen became part of Mark and Emma's family. The woman he'd once fled from in panic became the person he ran toward with joy. Their story wasn't perfect, it was complicated and messy and real, but it was theirs, built one nightly meeting at a time. As Mark watched his daughter and Sophia planning Emma's science project together at the kitchen table, he marveled at how one regrettable night had led to the most meaningful relationship of his life. Sometimes the things we run from are exactly what we need to run toward. If this story of unexpected love and second chances touched your heart, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more emotional journeys that remind us all that life's greatest gifts often come disguised as our biggest regrets. Sometimes the wrong turn leads exactly where we need to go. The science project was due in 3 days, and Emma was determined to create a model of the solar system that would blow everyone's minds, as she put it. Mark watched from the doorway as Sophia patiently helped Emma calculate the relative sizes of the planets, her sleek business attire replaced by jeans and one of Mark's old t-shirts. Jupiter needs to be way bigger than Earth, Sophia explained, sketching proportions on graph paper. Remember what we learned at the planetarium? You could fit like 1,000 Earths inside Jupiter. Emma exclaimed, her hands gesturing wildly. Can we make it light up? Tyler's volcano had real smoke, so I need something cooler. Mark smiled at the determination in his daughter's voice, a quality she'd always had, but one that had flourished under Sophia's influence over the past year. The transformation in Emma had been remarkable. From a child who'd been quiet and sometimes withdrawn after her mother's departure, she'd blossomed into a confident, curious girl who now talked about becoming an astronaut or maybe running a company that builds rockets. What are you smiling about over there? Sophia asked, catching his gaze. Just thinking about how lucky we got, he replied honestly. Later that night, after Emma had finally been convinced to go to bed despite her protests that scientists sometimes work all night, Dad, Mark and Sophia sat on the balcony of his apartment. It was smaller than her condo, with less impressive views, but over the months, she'd spent more and more time here until it felt like a second home. I have something to tell you, Sophia said, her voice carrying that hint of professional formality it still sometimes took on when she was nervous. Mark felt a flicker of anxiety. Everything okay? I've been offered the VP position. She turned to face him fully. The one in the New York office. His heart sank. They'd known this possibility was on the horizon. Sophia's meteoric rise in the company made such promotions inevitable, but the reality of it hit harder than expected. That's, wow. Congratulations. He tried to infuse genuine happiness into his voice, despite the sudden hollow feeling in his chest. When would you start? That depends. She took his hand, her fingers warm against his. On what we decide together. Together? Mark, I've spent my entire career putting work first. Making sacrifices. Believing that professional success would fulfill me completely. She looked out at the city lights, then back to him. But this past year has taught me that success means nothing if you don't have people to share it with. What are you saying? I'm saying I turned down the New York position. Before he could respond, she continued, but I proposed an alternative. A new division, based here, focused on digital transformation. They've accepted. Relief flooded through him, followed quickly by concern. Sophia, I would never want you to sacrifice your career for us. That's not fair to you. It's not a sacrifice, she said firmly. It's a choice. My choice. And for the first time, I'm making it with my heart as well as my head. She squeezed his hand. Besides, Emma's science project needs supervision. We both know you'd let her put Mercury next to Neptune just because the colors match. He laughed, the tension breaking. That was one time, and I maintain that aesthetic considerations are valid in solar system design. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Sophia spoke again. There's something else I've been thinking about. Should I be worried? That depends. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. On how you feel about making this arrangement permanent. Mark stared at the box, then at Sophia's face, the woman who had gone from holiday party mistake to dreaded boss to the love of his life. Are you proposing to me? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I believe in taking initiative, she replied with that confident smile he'd come to adore. And I've run the numbers. The data suggests we're better together than apart. He laughed, tears pricking at his eyes. Only you would approach marriage like a business proposal. Is that a yes? Instead of answering, he pulled her close and kissed her, pouring a year's worth of gratitude and love into the gesture. Emma's going to flip out, he said when they finally broke apart. She's been dropping hints about wanting to be a flower girl for months. I know. We've discussed it. Sophia's eyes twinkled with mischief. She helped me pick out the ring. You two and your secret meetings, Mark shook his head in mock disapproval. Should have known something was up when you both suddenly needed girl time at the mall. The next morning, they told Emma over breakfast. Her squeal of delight was so loud that Mrs. Patel knocked on their door to make sure everything was all right. Within minutes, Emma had produced a notebook filled with wedding ideas, complete with color-coded tabs and Pinterest references. I've been planning this for ages, she admitted, not looking the least bit guilty about her conspiracy with Sophia. Since that night you helped me with fractions using chocolate. That was our third meeting, Sophia said, surprised. I know. Emma shrugged, as if it were obvious. You looked at Daddy the way Princess Tiana looks at Prince Naveen after they turn back into humans. Mark raised an eyebrow. That's your romantic benchmark? A Disney movie about frogs? They weren't always frogs, Dad. Emma rolled her eyes with the exasperation only a 9-year-old could muster. That's the whole point. 6 months later, in a small ceremony with Emma proudly scattering rose petals down the aisle, Mark and Sophia were married. The Henderson client, whose project had been the catalyst for their nightly meetings, sent an extravagant gift with a note that read, "Best ROI on a marketing campaign ever." As they danced at their reception, Mark thought about the winding path that had led them here. The regrettable night that wasn't so regrettable after all. The dreaded boss who became his partner. The nightly meetings that had transformed from professional obligation to the foundation of their life together. "What are you thinking about?" Sophia asked, her head resting against his shoulder as they swayed to the music. "About how sometimes the things we think we'll regret the most turn out to be the best decisions we never meant to make," he replied. She smiled up at him. "Very poetic. But you know what really sealed the deal?" "What's that?" "Your presentation skills during those nightly meetings. Very impressive." He laughed, spinning her in a circle. "Always the boss, aren't you?" "Always," she agreed, pulling him closer. "But now we're co-COs of this family enterprise." Across the room, Emma was teaching Sophia's parents a dance move, her flower girl dress twirling as she spun. Mark's heart felt full to bursting at the sight of their blended family, not perfect, still learning, but stronger together than they ever could have been apart. Life would still have challenges. There would be difficult days at work, arguments about schedules, the inevitable complications of raising a child in a blended family. But now they would face those challenges together, their nightly meetings no longer about marketing strategies but about building a life neither of them had imagined possible. That regrettable morning when Mark had slipped out of Sophia's apartment, thinking he was escaping complications rather than running from the best complication he would ever know. As the evening wound down, Emma approached them, yawning but determined to stay awake until the very end. "Are you happy, Daddy?" she asked, leaning against him tiredly. "Happier than I ever thought possible, Pumpkin," he answered truthfully. "Me too," she said, reaching for Sophia's hand. "Our family was good before, but now it's perfect." Sophia knelt down to Emma's level, something she'd never hesitated to do despite her designer dresses and professional demeanor. "Not perfect," she corrected gently. "Real. And that's better than perfect." As they drove home that night, Emma asleep in the back seat, Mark reached for Sophia's hand across the console. "Thank you for those nightly meetings," he said quietly. "Best business decision I ever made," she replied, squeezing his fingers. Even if it wasn't really about business at all. Sometimes life's greatest regrets become our greatest blessings. Sometimes the people we try to avoid become the ones we can't live without. And sometimes, just sometimes, a single night that seems like a mistake can lead to 1,000 nights of happiness, if we're brave enough to show up for the meeting. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Life is full of second chances and unexpected love stories. Sometimes we just need to be reminded to recognize them when they appear. Thank you for joining us on this journey of love, family, and the courage to embrace the complications that make life worth living.